Right.
Reporting.
All right, let's get this part started. You guys don't look alike until I see you sitting right next to each other, and it's just like it's like a mini me version of you.
You brought a helper today, Frank?
Well, I mean, helper is a very loose word.
No, we were just talking about it. I said, yeah, my son and his son are the same age, and it's like, oh, we should bring them in and they can all hang out with Riley. I'm like, no, I don't think you want our boys hanging out with Riley.
Well, I know my side. I'm like, do you want the walls spray painted and like?
Hey, this is Brian. Welcome to Philosopher's Notes TV. Today I'm not wearing my gray jacket. I have a light blue shirt on, as you can see. And we're going to do The Power of Full Engagement by Tony Schwartz and Jim Lohr. Awesome book, Powerful Engagement, as always.
It's supposed to be the power of now.
I thought so. I love that book so much. My favorite.
There it is.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome to Philosopher's Notes TV. Today we've got Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. As always, great book, 6-page PDF Philosopher's Note. I've got about a dozen big ideas, and let's jump into several now. So this book is packed with big ideas we can apply to our lives right now. And let's look at some of my favorite ones. Might come back to that one. So one of my favorite ideas of all the different ideas, we have over 1,000 of them in the 100 notes here, is this idea that in order to get into the present moment, into the power of now, whatever is happening in our life, we should accept it as if we chose it. He's got an awesome line here, where literally accept whatever is happening and act as if we chose it. From the most, unfortunate, getting laid off, or even a home foreclosure, whatever it is that's really stressing you out, an illness, something like that, accept it. Fighting it is not going to do anything to solve the challenge, to move beyond it. Accept it, and the best way to accept it, I think, is to act as if you actually wanted that to happen. See if you can alchemize the event into an opportunity for growth. Can you see the most positive benefits in it and actually act as if, accept it as if you had chosen it? Really powerful idea. So whatever's stressing you out, see if you can shift your consciousness that way and not get stuck in kind of the barrier thoughts that positive psychologists would call it, where you're kind of grinding against the negative thought patterns. Step back, look at it, accept it, and then challenge the thoughts you have about it and see if you can create more constructive, empowering ideas. Another big idea he has is this idea of watching the thinker. Right? So we're constantly thinking. And the mind can be a very powerful tool when connected to, our highest selves. But when it's just rattling around and the monkey is swinging from vine to vine to vine, or little gremlins, as I like to say, are running around, we get in trouble. So his idea here of watching the thinker and actually seeing the thinking mind, and realize that the part of you that can see the thinking mind, that's much closer to your actual essence, right? That's who you really are. You're not that fleeting thought and that fleeting thought and that fleeting thought. So the more we can step back and watch the thinker and make that a practice, especially when we find ourselves going in all those negative loops. Typically we make ourselves nauseous through anxiety and overwhelm with the same thoughts going. And if we could simply step back and have the presence to see it, to watch the thinker, it's a really big practice, I think, that you get a lot of benefit out of. As you know, if you've read the book, it talks about our pain bodies. I'm not going to go into detail on that, but this basic idea that we store up a lot of our suffering. Everyone does. And it's their pain body. It's like we walk around with this pain body that's energetically emanating around us. And you know what it's like. If If you walk around different people, you walk into a room and people are just really stressed, there's kind of like this vibration. A lot of that is the pain body being activated and kind of just coming at us, really. And he says we need to observe our own pain bodies. And we need to observe immediately when our pain bodies are coming into action, when they're coming into play. And we can know they're getting going by simple things like we're getting angry, we're getting frustrated, we're starting to get depressed. Any of these negative experiences, he says, are the pain body coming up. And we want to notice it immediately when it starts arising, and we want to stop it. Pema Chodron has a great story as well. She says, whenever you find yourself feeling any of those negative emotions, notice it. Again, this awareness, this consciousness that isn't just the experience. See it, and then break the habit. Do not allow it to continue. Do not allow it to continue to groove its pattern into your consciousness. And she says, do whatever you need to do. Just don't continue that line, whether it's yelling or checking out, numbing out with another beer or glass of wine or hour on Facebook or watching TV or whatever it is you do to distract yourself when you start feeling that anxiety. Do something else. Break that tendency, break that habit. Jump on a rebounder, we got one right there. Go for a walk, talk to someone you love, do something that's proactive that really breaks that habit. So catch your pain body the moment it awakens. Really cool idea. One of the things that I'm talking about more these days is the idea of embracing both the future and becoming and the beingness of this moment. And Tal Ben-Shahar, one of my favorite teachers, talks about this, and he says we need to be careful that we don't get caught in a rat racing trap where we're constantly chasing something in the future, and we need to be careful we don't get caught in the hedonist trap where we're only in this moment. And we need to be careful that we don't get caught in a nihilist trap where we give up both everything. We just kind of give up the game. We're like, screw it all kind of thing. He says the ideal is not only going for the future, which is a rat racer, or only being in the moment, which I call the Tolle trap in the chapter I'm writing in a new book of mine, where we get stuck and we misread some of this Tolle stuff, we misread the Bhagavad Gita, and we're just in the moment. But that's not what it's about. Happiness, Tal Ben-Shahar tells us, and I completely agree, is all about embracing a goal worthy of us and then being in the moment and loving this moment. It's having a destination while enjoying the journey, while enjoying the process. It's truism, but oftentimes I find when I'm in conversations with people who are really into Tolle and work like this, they kind of just get into the moment in the hedonist style where they think that any future thinking is inherently wrong. And Eckhart Tolle doesn't say that. So bringing it back to Tolle, he says what we need to do is we need to make sure we manage clock time versus psychological time. So having goals is an important part of our external human experiences, he says. We've got to have goals to move forward on. Now, we use clock time to do so effectively. Okay, by 5 p.m. on Friday, I want to have this accomplished. Within 3 months, I want to have this accomplished. That's using clock time. What he says we don't want to do, we do want to do that. What we don't want to do is use psychological time, where we're getting anxious about the future. We're worrying about whether we're going to be able to make that deadline or lifeline, as Tal Ben-Shahar calls it. Or we have regret and shame and guilt about the past. That's psychological time. That takes us out of the present moment. But we want to set goals that really inspire us, use clock time, and then enjoy the process. Love the moment as we move toward it. We're going to talk about that a lot more. It's a really powerful idea that I'm really excited to explore more and more with you in the months and years and decades ahead. Another great idea, he says, if it makes you sick, quit eating it. Great idea. If you do this and you do that, you do this and you do that, and those things make you feel terrible, it's not enough to accept a certain emotion. He says at some point you gotta quit eating the stuff that makes you sick. It doesn't do you any good to accept something that you need to stop doing, right? So if you have certain habits that you know make you feel ill, quit doing them. Quit eating that stuff. It's kind of like the cheese trap idea from Pema Chodron's The Places That Scare You that we talked about. But we need to recognize our cheese traps. What are the traps we go to? We eat the cheese, right? Again, whether it's a glass of wine or more time online, whatever it is, we got to quit eating that cheese with the trap of suffering that comes after it. He's got some great ideas along taking responsibility. He says, if you're in a situation that you don't like, you have three choices. Number one, you can remove yourself from that situation. If you can't do that, change the situation, alter it so it's more to your liking. If you can't remove yourself or change it, accept it totally. You have three choices. Remove yourself, change it, or accept it. To do anything other than that just is not effective. We talked about future goals and stuff like that. A really important idea here he has is the idea that we need to take responsibility for our actions, but let the fruits take care of themselves. The fruits, the income we make, the fame we might get, the power we might accumulate as we expand in our consciousness and do what we're here to do. Those things are byproducts. What we want to pay attention to and put all of our energy into is our actions. That's how we're able to hold goals and take the next step and enjoy the moment. But if we get caught up in the rat racer idea of wanting to get something, then we're going to be attached and we're going to suffer. We talk about that a lot. He's got some great quotes in here that are pretty powerful. And then the final idea here is he says, be an alchemist. Turn whatever's stressing you out into something positive. It's like the philosopher's stone. Basically could take base metal and turn it into gold. Well, that was a metaphor for our consciousness. Can we take a negative experience, accept it, love it, and be able to alchemize it into something positive? Ultimately, that's what all this work is about, to go out and be able to transmute anything into a blissful experience. So there you go. Power of Now, super quickly. Hope you dug it. Look forward to sharing more with you soon. See ya.
Has anybody read that?
I read it like 6 times.
6 times.
It's literally my favorite book in the entire world. Not
Did you actually
a
read it or
joke.
did you listen to it?
No, I only read it. I'm attention deficit. I'm not an audio person. I'll get
Because
lost.
I cannot,
You're just the
I
opposite.
can't listen to it. If you listen to it, maybe you can, but Eckhart totally reads it. And have you ever heard him speak?
Yeah.
He's really monotone. And he's
That's
like,
putting it
he's like, today we are going to explore the thought. I'm like 5 minutes in and I'm like, no, stop it, make it stop. So it's really hard for me. I've had it on audiobook for years. And it takes like little bits and pieces for me to get through, but it's an amazing book.
Oh,
Did I do that? I think I did that when I read.
called you.
Yeah, I did that when
I
I
know
read.
Granita's currently rereading it. She
Okay,
suggested
yeah,
it. Yeah.
It's,
That one that follows.
yeah, it's an amazing book. So I definitely encourage you to read it and look at it. Did you guys get anything from that? Any thoughts? What do you guys think? Anybody want to share?
Well, the first thing that I was thinking of, we like to read a lot of Wayne Dyer.
Yep,
And
it's good.
his concept, yeah, I've followed him for years. His concept is the same thing, to accept it as if you chose it.
Yeah,
Because really that's the only way to feel forward.
Yeah.
Like,
And-
condition to-
and if you look at things in life, like you actually do choose almost everything that you are in. Like if you, let's say you're in a negative situation, whether it be a relationship or a job or something like that. You made a decision to put yourself there at some point, regardless of what is happening in that moment. So you may be subject to something like at a job where you're not happy because of the environment, but you made the decision to be there. So it's almost like you have to take responsibility for everything. And that's the same in real estate. Like if you're with a client, like and I always reference Tracy because I can always bring something back because we've done this for so long, is that we're working with a client right now on a very small piece of property. And there was red flags beforehand, but we still decided to move forward with it. And then something happened and we're like, we kind of did this to ourselves. Like we knew, and we kind of did it to ourselves. So I like the part of, accept it like you own it. You're there because of you. Like you got to be a big person and put your big pants on and take responsibility for the decisions that have gotten you there. It's really weird because I feel like I just had this conversation with my son.
But you learn from it, and then don't put yourself in
Yeah.
those situations.
And then it's just like reframing everything. So if you reframe something that's negative, like I lost my job, good. It's good because now you can go get a better job. Or I didn't get that listing, good, now I can have time to go prospect for other listings. Like if you take something and reframe it as it's good, because now it gives you an opportunity to do something else, I think that will take you out of a place of feeling hurt, victimized, or whatever you want to call it, to more of a positive place. Because when they were talking over here about energy, like energy in my mind is everything when it comes down to it. And if you are stressed, if you have anxiety, if you've had a bad day and you walk into a room, people can tell, especially if it's people that you've been around. If you're in a room where you haven't been around people, like they can tell, it's just that they think that's how you are, right? And I always bring that back to scarcity, desperation, and commission breath. So when you have commission breath is when you talk to somebody and you're so focused on getting that deal that you have this air of desperation around you. And, you know, when the market's messed up and you don't have as many deals as you want, and you get like a late notice from your credit card, and like, you know, rent's due in a few days, like that can really stress you out. I've been there. Like, I totally get that. But you have to figure out a way to reframe that and change up your energy. And there's only so many things you can do. Like, pattern interrupts. So action is what really makes that happen. So going to the gym. So for me, going to the gym, you know, is probably a really good one for me because it changes up my energy a lot. And what I would say about the gym and pattern interrupts is you have to do something significant at the gym to really, really make an effect. I see people do like workout videos all the time on like Instagram or whatever, and they're just not lifting very much weight, and you can tell. And it's just like, you should probably be lifting 4 times as much as you're lifting. So if you go there, you go to the gym and you do something extremely vigorous to where it actually takes the breath out of you, or if you lift something heavy that's really difficult to lift, that's going to significantly change your energy. So that's something that I'm a big proponent of because I do it for myself a lot. I like the point where he was talking about being in the moment and the goals. I hear that a lot. People are like, oh, be in the moment, like put your phone away. And I don't know if I subscribe to that, but what I do subscribe to is that you can get going so much to where the only way to reset is to stop and like take a minute, like take a breath, meditate for a minute, understand where you are at, but you also have to have a goal, I think, moving forward. There are a lot of people out there right now that have these mindsets of like, I'm just gonna live in the moment, I'm gonna go where the moment takes me and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, hey, if that makes you happy, that's your thing, that's cool. But I also believe like moving forward and growing in life is really important. So having a goal as well as the moment is vital, I think, to business and to growth. But the goal has to be something you really want, not something that you're working for somebody else. Does that make sense? Like a lot of times in relationships, and whether this is business partnership relationships or dating marriage relationships, if you are not on the same page with your partner, it's eventually going to end. It's eventually going to have problems. So communication is a very big key. But what I see with relationships is there's always a codependency that happens. And where one partner starts focusing on the other partner's goals so much that they lose track of their own. And that is something that it happens subconsciously because you're like, oh, I want to make them happy. And if you think about this as I'm saying it, like you can see the correlation between business and marriage and relationship and dating. It's like you're so focused because you want to make that other person happy that you lose track of what's really important to you. And what's really important to understand is that you can't make anybody happy. They have to be able to make themselves happy. And you have to be there to assist in all of that. So it's really important to understand in a relationship, especially a business relationship. Has anybody ever been in a 50-50 business relationship?
It's never 50.
It's never 50-50. It doesn't exist. And I will say this, in a relationship, it's not 50-50 either. There has to be somebody that takes the reins, that like steps up. So it should always be 51-49 or something like that, but there should be an understanding. And the way you create that understanding in business and in a relationship is through a massive amount of communication. Just this last week, I've just dealt with so many business people in general that the only issue in the entire thing is communication. It's lack of, it's not enough of, it's just messed up. So if you can give massive communication to your partner, whether it be business or personal, there's nothing bad's gonna come of that. If that business partnership is not for you and you over communicate and it falls apart, well, it was gonna fall apart anyway. Because not communicating is not gonna help. We all agree on that? Worry versus regret. Regret is basically you should have done something that you didn't do. So it's like, as long as it's positive, like you should always take the risk, always take the risk. You should always be able to recover as long as you're taking massive action. Worrying about something, that is probably the biggest time suck and like happiness thief of all time is about worrying about things. Most of everything we worry about doesn't even happen, or it's not as bad as we thought it would be. I mean, we can always think of like, if you're worrying about, oh my God, how am I gonna do my car payment? How am I gonna, do this? How am I gonna do that? It's amazing how we all seem to figure out how to get things done. And something always happens. And being negative, the goals, worrying, regret, choices, all this stuff, he was talking about in the video, he was talking about turning it around. And turning it around, I think this is a very interesting concept because if you're in a bad situation, whether it's business, whether it's personal, what is negative and what is positive? If you really think about the core part of being negative and being positive, it's something that we've constructed. Like we have man-made everything, like time. He was talking about time. That's a man-made construct. We created time for trains to make sure our trains got to where they needed to be at some point in time, and they needed some way to regulate certain things. So time is a construct, good versus bad versus negative versus positive. It's all a construct that we put together. Like our laws, like a perfect one, thou shalt not kill. I mean, that's a good law, right? But it only applies to us. Like lions in Africa are like, what? No, that's how I eat. Like, I'm gonna go kill whatever I need to kill. So it's all this negative and positive as a construct. So if you really think about the amount of power that you have the power to actually reframe anything in your mind that is positive, that is negative, and fix it so that it benefits you. And when I was a police officer, I would see this in criminals all the time. Because they would take something that was inherently positive, make it negative, and then rationalize how it made sense for them to do something that was really bad. And all they did was reframe it in their mind and change what we created and thought was the right thing. And so you can do it with yourself. So if you have a bad situation, you just have to reframe how you're looking at it and turn it around. And at the end of the day, the best way to get to where you need to go is action. You have to get into action. Sitting down and thinking about your problems will never solve the problems. Getting to action to actually make things happen. If you want to get business, like I always talk about the agents that don't do well. It's that their lead generation, their best form of lead generation is prayer. And that's just really hoping the phone rings. That doesn't work really well. But what would, anybody can answer this, what is the thing that you have to do if you want to get business?
Action.
And what action would that be?
And, take the phone, follow up, talk to the people that you know.
Talk to people. I mean, that's literally it. You're gonna talk to people. So we have an industry built on selling everybody in here things on how to talk to people. I'm gonna get you buyer leads. I'm gonna get you foreclosure leads. I'm gonna get you expired leads. I'm gonna get you blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, nobody has to sell you that stuff. You could just go out in the world and figure out those things and just talk to people. Yes.
I'll say like sometimes people don't even know how to use those. Like for some reason, my phone number is for my parents' house.
Yeah.
So I get calls sometimes. And the person calls me and like, I'd be willing to vouch for the right person with them, but like, you're just gonna, once you hear about AJ, you're just gonna kind of hang up on you. This
Exactly.
happens like 2 times this week.
And it's true, because we want a shortcut. We want a shortcut to success. And I don't know if anybody saw my, my post that I did today. It said, people are jealous for what you have, but they're not jealous on how you got it. It's like, nobody's gonna be jealous about the amount of work that you had to put in to actually get what you had. Like, if everybody saw, like, if you look at me and you see that I have this great job and I have this great business and I have all these great things, I guarantee you, if you went back and saw what I had to do to get to where I'm at today, I'd say most people would be like, no, we're good. I don't need to do that. And it's really hard. It's like when somebody goes, I would die to do what you do, or I would, I would give anything to be where you're at. And I think it was an Olympic athlete. Somebody said, I would give anything to be where you're at right now. And they looked at the person in the eyes and said, no, you wouldn't. Because if you would, you would be. And people make statements like that because they want a shortcut. I see it literally every day in the real estate industry. But when it all comes back to mindset. All these books and everything that we go through in coaching, there's nothing that we talk about, this is the talent you need. This is the skill you need. We literally talk about iteration and just volume of conversations with people and how you think about that and how you think about yourself. If you can frame yourself in a positive mindset and talk to people in general, not even about real estate, a lot, every day, constantly, consistently, it's really hard not to be successful. What do you think, Dan?
I think that he didn't really do that book justice, because it's my favorite book and I'm very prejudiced. So the whole idea of that book, The Power of Now, there's a saying in that book that I have lived by since I read it like 15 years ago. And I would encourage you to write it down because it's so good. It says, forget about your life situation for a while and start living your life. And what I love about that is when my coach had given me that book, I was going through a really tough time and I was, really stuck in the past and really worried about my future. And I think for all of us, we've all been there. And then, so when we're going through our day to day, our mind is not, okay, any self-awareness at all. We're either stuck with the past and mad or angry or upset about something that you continue to dwell on, that's over. Or you're worried about future things that haven't even happened yet, you don't even know. I mean, how many times have you been afraid to have a conversation with somebody that you know that needs to be done, right? And this could be with your spouse, your partner, your business partner, whatever. And you were like, just really stressed out and you avoid this conversation for like 2 weeks and ruin every 14 days, right? Then you finally have that conversation and what happens? It's not that big of a deal. They're like, you know what? I've been meaning to talk to you too about that. Or you have all these, premonitions of what's going to happen. And it was nothing. Or they didn't even mention the issue in the first place. So, when it comes down to what Frank was saying and why we do all these things is that it doesn't matter, what I coach you on or what I ask you to say, or, Frank was saying about giving people leads. If we did give you guys leads all day, the problem is on the back end that you haven't practiced how to have really good real estate conversations. So you're not prepared. So it's a continuing excuse that we're doing to ourselves, in my opinion, that we're not learning what we need to do to get to the next step. Because every level that you're at and that you need to go to, you're just one skill away to getting to that next level. So you need to figure out what is that one skill that I need to learn that's going to propel me to get to the level that I know that I can. And that's it. It's that simple. I don't know if you wanted to lecture.
No, it's good stuff. I mean, I don't always like, I love different perspectives because at the end of the day, you know, nobody's 100% right. And everything I say, what I do is I try to just basically say what I need to say to see if I can click a certain button with somebody here that kind of help them get to the next level. But I mean, the conversation about leads is I tell every day, can you give me leads? Can you give me leads? And I've gotten to the point where I'm so calloused now, like to where I'm just like, I'll give you leads, but you don't know how to talk to them.
That's it.
Like, I'll just tell you straight out now, like, I'm like, what are you gonna say? I mean, here's a foreclosure lead, I'll write it down. What are you gonna say to them? Like, well, yeah, so what I've done is I've given you the easiest script that I can possibly give you that works 100% of the time. Is that we're in this business in real estate, because it's relationship based and because people want to be cared about. So when you call people, you're like, hey, how's it going? How's the kids? How's the family? How's school? How's work? How's all these things? And you don't talk about real estate because people want to be cared about. And once you realize that, it makes everything really difficult. When you're talking about worrying about, like, I don't want to call that person because there was a negative experience on that. I'll give you a personal story of my own, is that I owned a social media company. So for everybody that doesn't know, I got into social media in like 2005, 2006, when Facebook first came out and people made fun of me. They were like, how old are you? Because this was when like 13-year-olds were on Facebook. Now it's like your grandma's on Facebook. Like, there's no 13-year-old or 12 or 16-year-old or whatever we caught dead on Facebook. Are you on Facebook? Yeah, so you're a little bit older. So, but like my son, like he just looked at me sideways if I asked him if he
You
was
know
on
what the
Facebook.
new thing is that the kids that are our teenage,
Mhm.
the only reason why they're on Facebook now, I heard this yesterday, it's so funny you mentioned it. The only reason why they're on Facebook now is to check their parents' accounts to make sure that they're not posting pictures about
That's
them.
true. Oh my gosh, that is
So
so
true.
true. And Tracy's on here, she would totally get that. She would post a photo of like her and her daughter or something, and then like she'd get a call, be like, hey, can you take that photo down?
I can't all the time.
That happens, oh my gosh. Anyway, that's funny. But I was into social media really, really early on, and I started figuring out a lot of things. I ended up putting together a social media company, and I had a company for a number of years, did fairly well. And then I ended up selling it to somebody else. And so I stepped back. Well, one of my friends that I sold services to had a problem with the company after I sold it. And he came back to me, and at the end of the day, we lost connection. It wasn't handled very well because I tried to communicate with the people that owned it and try to help them out, and it didn't work out very well. And so we lost connection, and I was just like, this guy hates me. He would never talk. Why would I ever call this guy? Like, he hates me. I messed him up. I didn't do the right thing. I said all these, and then one day, when I'm like trying to get my database together and like I'm trying to reconnect with people, like I tell all of you guys to do. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna call him. I'm gonna call him and apologize. So I reached out to him, through a text message. I said, hey, how are you doing? I just want to apologize, and this is why, and blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, well, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and I lost some money because of the negative situation. And so because I remember the situation, I know exactly how much money he spent or whatever, it was like $500. I'm like, what's your Zelle? I said, is your Zelle attached to your phone number? He said, yes, I just Zelle $500. I said, hey, I just want to I'm sorry. And you know, if there's anything I can do for you in the future, let me know. We reconnected, we're friends, he's in my database, I talked to him, he's a dentist, I took my son over there to see him. Like, if you have to have the inner strength to step up and confront things like that. So what's the opposite? It doesn't work out. He tells me to F off. Well, now I know, right? Don't need to call him anymore. He got it off his chest, and I know I never have to worry about that again. Make sense? But it's just like you have to put your big boy pants on, big girl pants, whatever.
We wear boy pants.
Um,
So Kunita had a question I didn't want to.
Yeah, what was Kenneth's question?
Yeah, I just want to share something.
Absolutely.
Because I'm not very familiar and a long time, I haven't been doing these calls. And for many years, I've been like a texting person. So now, when I'm making these calls, every time my mind tells me something negative, and I'm like yesterday, for example, I was calling somebody who lives in Sacramento, and my mind was like, it's all the way in Sacramento. Why do you want to call her? And by the end of this conversation, she told me, I will send you an email and I want you to send me houses close to Hermosa and Manhattan Beach. And also, she thanked me for calling her and actually reaching out. So you just never know. So I
Never
just
know.
wanted to share that because mind is always want to defeat and say something negative, but you have to kind of bypass that and just go for it.
Okay, so Gunita, we've been talking a lot. How many days have you been making phone calls till you had a win?
You said, what was the question? Sorry, I can't hear.
How many days have you been calling? Because that's part of what we're working on, is getting you to have real estate conversations, and that was a good win for you. How many days have you been calling till you got that win yesterday?
Well, that's not the first one, but I've been calling a couple
Okay,
of
well, that's even
weeks,
better.
I would say. But when you go with that energy out, just like in the first 2 weeks, there were two people who approached me and said, "Oh, I heard that you're a real estate agent," and they heard from somebody else, and that was from social media, just posting.
Yeah.
So, answer your question, this one came after 3-4 weeks calling.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you have what, 2 or 3 leads for a couple weeks of calling? Would you say 2 or 3 solid leads?
Yeah, right now I'm working with 3 potential buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That, I think that's what she said, I think is really important. I think that we don't realize this, that our mind is not negative or positive. Our mind is what our mind is, and it thinks whatever it thinks. It doesn't have, oh my God, that's a negative thought. Oh my God, that's a bad thought. Your mind basically is here to protect you. So like if you go into something that you don't like, your mind is gonna be like, get out of there. I want to protect you. I don't want you to get hurt. And you're going to naturally have an instinct. Like if I were gonna tell you, get up, I need you to go ride a roller coaster that somebody died on yesterday. You'd be like, no, you're dumb. Like, I'm not going on a roller coaster somebody died on yesterday. But at the end of the day, if you got on it and everything was fine, it would be exhilarating and it'd be fun and you'd be good. And the fact is that there's roller coasters at Disneyland and Magic Mountain that people have died on, and we all go right on those roller coasters. But if we let our mind take control of that, our mind will be like, no, 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 we don't need to do that. And that happens in all different parts of our life. It's a fight or flight thing, and our mind controls it. But you control your mind. So if you push yourself to those boundaries, because you are comfortable in whatever space that you're in. And I had a conversation with somebody about pain the other day, about, I'm like, I don't think you're in enough pain. And they were like, I have been in a lot of pain. And what I realized after that conversation is that we can become comfortable in pain to where we have experienced so much of pain that we can now tolerate it and it's okay. We don't like it, but we can deal with it.
Yeah, it's like your new
Yeah.
norm.
And I see that happen, and so when I thought of that, after I talked to this person, I realized that I see a lot of people in that situation to where it's just like, like lifting weight. Like I started out with 25-pound dumbbells, now I'm up to 45-pound dumbbells doing curls. Like it hurts, but I'm comfortable. But if I go back to 30-pound, it hurts, but I can do it. It's like if you can become comfortable in your situation, like it just takes more pain and more pain and more pain for you to actually change your situation instead of you just being comfortable in it. And it all comes down to your mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just like, did you have something to say? Okay. This week, lots of real estate, coaching conversations on the struggle,
Yeah,
you know. And I did it on Monday, and I'll just reiterate that you guys have to choose your struggle. Ellen and I had a good conversation about that yesterday, and a few other people, because you can struggle with the situation that you're in and be upset, pissed, and blah, 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 or embrace the struggle that you need, which is getting into those real estate conversation, being comfortable with it, knowing what to say, not having that stress and anxiety. So it's just like Fred was saying, mindset, choice. So what you gotta choose your struggle. And it's easier, if you're gonna struggle and you're gonna be frustrated or upset, then you might as well do something that's going to benefit you, opposed to staying in the same position that you guys are in right now.
I mean, and let's talk about pain again for a second. So is pain bad?
That's for no
It
reason.
depends. If you're in labor, yes. Just kidding.
Well, there's some people that have easy labors that I've heard about. I don't know if those
Yeah,
people-
yeah.
But, are there people who like pain?
Sure.
Are there people
Yeah, why do
that
people
feel that pain is a form of pleasure?
There's some weird stuff out there.
There are. And well, my point is, it's a frame. There's some people out there that actually go out and intentionally put themselves into pain, because that's their thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you have to just reframe on what all this is. Who wants to play a game with me really quick? She's like, no, you wanna?
Sure.
All right,
She
so
doesn't interpret
on a
it.
scale from 1 to 10, what would you rate your health? Just be honest, no judgment here.
From what it's been in my life, maybe 6.
6, okay. 6. On business, 1 to 10, where's your business at? 10, and 10 is like the best possible business you could ever have in your entire life.
Maybe 4 or 5.
4 or 5, let's do a 4, okay. Personal,
7, 8,
7, okay. Spiritual,
7, 8.
7, okay. So this is the power of now, right? Because this is where you are at now. I think based on these numbers that a lot of us could probably resonate with this, because I don't think that's far off from most people in general. So thank you for playing with me and being honest. So let me ask you this question. What would you have to do to get your health to a 10? First of all, do you know what you would have to do?
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah. So what would you have to do? Give me a bullet points.
Really be more intentional. I think the main thing I could be doing now is more intentional about what I'm eating.
Intentional. I don't know how to spell that. Food, right? Intentional about food, okay? So what would help you be more intentional about food? Oh, so I'll answer this for that, because that's a very good question for me as well. As we're sitting, my trainer texted me, workout, exclamation point. Anyway, literally just texted me. For me, it's time. So like, I'm not intentional about my food because like I let my time mess me up, because I have appointments, I'm running around, and like I eat like turkey and I eat beef and like things that typically I don't want to eat without being heated up. So like time is an issue for me. So is that similar to you, or would it be something different?
I think it would, yeah, it's a little bit of putting in the time.
Time. Okay.
And maybe like, I know when I did do like training for the half Ironman and stuff, back then I was meeting with the sports nutritionist, so it's having that accountability.
Accountability, okay. Okay, so business, what would you have to do to get your business to a 10? So first of all, do you know what you need to do to get your business to a 10?
Not 100%.
Yes, because you don't know all these classes, you just don't do all
I do a lot.
the work. All the work.
Yeah, not 100%.
So you know what typically you would need to do, right? So I think in business, most of us know what we're supposed to do.
I think it has to go with health too, because I think sometimes. I've
'Cause it's
been
time
more
as well, right?
exhausted. I've been more exhausted than I normally am.
Tired. Can we put time down here too?
Yeah.
Time, okay,
And that's gotten better, but I think like in February.
yep,
I was just exhausted from trying to do too much. And
Yeah, I mean, life happens, right? I get it. So personal. Do you know what you would have to do to get your personal from a 7 to a 10?
I think I actually got a really good idea yesterday, like in that negotiation book about using questions to not come off as aggressive to people,
Yep,
to get them to understand where you're at without feeling like you have to prove a point. And then I
Yeah.
actually had an instance with somebody where I saw that work a little bit.
okay. So what would you put as far as that? Just like reading more or learning more things?
I think going into that part of me that does use that does ask questions, that's the teacher, the caregiver, and doesn't come off as trying to get my point across all
So
the
just
time.
taking more time to work on yourself. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's time again. That's time again. Spiritual. I think this one should be easy. So to me, the way you become more spiritual is just you need more time and be more intentional about focusing on like your inner self and whatever you think is important when it comes to spirituality. Is that right? So I would say time is the same one. So the commonality between all of these things is time, right? So what solves time?
Planning better.
I'm gonna say something a lot of people aren't gonna wanna hear. Tell you what saves time. Money. Money saves time. We all have the same amount of time every day. Some of us are billionaires, some are not. So what separates a billionaire from somebody who's not a billionaire?
The amount of people they have working for under them that they benefit from that.
It's how they manage their time on a daily basis to be more effective, to get the things done that get them to where they're at financially today. And so if we're looking at the power of now, like forget about everything that's going on around you, all your life, your job, your people and everything. What's the one thing that you could do right now that could affect the dollars coming into your life? Because if you track, so when I coach with people and I say, okay, I need you to do X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, I'll typically give you 2 or 3 things to do from every week before I meet with you. And then when you come back, if you don't get something done, we literally don't move forward until that one thing is done. And I've had people quit on me because and I'll give you an example. As somebody, I said, you need to put everybody in your database. You need to call everybody and have a conversation and put notes. He came back to me, did not put everybody in the database. It's okay, coaching's over. This coaching time is gonna be dedicated to you putting people in your database. Come back to me next week and we'll see where we're at. Still didn't do it. Had the same conversation. And he came back next week, still didn't do it. And then he said, I'm gonna go coach with this person over here because, you know, I think you're too advanced for me. I'm like, literally ask you to put people in a database.
Maybe he didn't have anybody.
No, he did.
They just.
He did, but he was just like, no, you're too hard. I'm like, no, I'm more real. Like, this is what it takes to get to where it needs to go. But at the end of the day, the dollars are what's gonna change everything, and everything in your life is gonna happen. And so what I did is, what I do with people, like, let's say you get people in your database and you start calling people like I asked you to, and then you're not, like, 2 or 3 weeks go by and you get no leads. I say, let me see your schedule. And I look at your schedule and I see what's going on in your life. And typically what I see in people's schedule is you'll have 2 or 3 things scheduled during the day, and then there'll be all this white space. White space is the devil. So we're clear. And that means the white space in your calendar is negotiable time, which means that's time that you can do whatever it is you want to do. And the way one person I met with, I'm like, well, tell me about your day then. And so she started going through and telling me about her day. And she was like, yeah, 3 o'clock, I pick up my son. And I'm like, why is that on your calendar? She goes, well, I don't really pick him up at 3. I can pick him up at 3:30. I'm like, could you pick him up at 3:45? She's like, yeah. I'm like, could you pick him up at 2:45? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, so the time's negotiable, so you don't put it in there. I said, why don't you put it in at 3 and pick him up at 3? That way you can schedule something at 3:30, you can schedule something at 4. But because you created negotiable time, white space in your calendar, don't have any time and your time's kind of all over the place. So the power of now and having the money part of it, if you scheduled yourself to do something between 8 and 10, 6 and 9, I'm gonna call 25 people, and you scheduled it, and you did it, that's gonna affect the dollars here, which could actually get all of these to a 10. But you have to stop thinking about what could, what should, what's gonna happen tomorrow and all this, and just do it now. Because this is the only time that we have. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Thoughts or questions before we wrap it? I can talk forever, so like I have to like think, sit in my mind like, wrap it up, Frank, wrap it up, wrap it up. Thoughts, questions? I think it's easy to overthink everything. And I think that's what we do as real estate agents. We overthink the crap out of everything. We don't do that one thing or make that one extra phone call or do that one extra thing. What was that?
You don't make any phone calls. So, no, we're on top of it. I think, is Monica on the line? Is Monica on here?
There are 2 Zoom users.
Yeah, she would have her name on.
Yeah, I don't think it's on. I should know like it's her name.
So Monica is the one, she's a 2-year-old and a baby at home.
Oh, yeah.
She made 47 phone calls yesterday. 47. Crushing it.
I mean, so I'll give everybody
So no excuses
yeah, no,
there.
I'll give everybody a tactic right now.
You're talking about time.
Yeah. If
She
you,
has no
if you
time.
want to change your business, it's really easy to do, but nobody does it. And it's really, and most people aren't willing to do it. But everybody can do it. And I'll tell you what my wife did, and I've told this story before, is that make 100 contacts a day. It's the rule of 100. So like you have 4 ways to get business. So like you have warm leads, cold leads, you have content, and you have paid, right? So you do 100, 100, 100, and then 100. So do call 100 people that you actually really know every day. Call 100 people, cold call that you don't know every day. You post 100 pieces of content every day, and then you spend $100 a day in paid advertisement. If you did that, do you think you'd get business?
Yep, 100%. More than you need.
So there's a thing in Keller Williams called the Bold 100, and it's basically you have to make 100 contacts in a day. Not all these other 3 things. So if you make 100 contacts in a day, Tracy said, I'm gonna stay home today, I'm gonna do a Bold 100. I said, okay, great. So I went about my day, I did what I needed to do, and I came home, and she's sitting on the couch just going away on her phone, like, da-da-da. I'm like, what are you doing? She's, I'm doing the Bold 100. I'm like, what do you mean you're doing the Bold 100? You're supposed to be calling people. She's like, no, I'm texting them. I'm like, you're texting 100 people. She's like, yeah, I'm texting 100 people. I'm like, all right, well, how's that going for you? She goes, I'm at 89 right now. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, how long does that take you? She's like, 5 hours.
I
Like,
did
okay.
one.
You did one?
7.5 hours circle prospecting on Mojo.
Yep. Did you get anything?
Oh, yeah, it was a long time ago, but yeah, I remember I made several appointments.
Yeah, so that's the cold part. He's doing circle prospect, that's 100 cold. So, but I remember, so my strategy is like 6% of everybody you know is gonna buy, sell, or refer business out in the next 12 months. So when she finished, she was like, I'm done. I'm like, well, how did it go? She goes, I got 6 leads. I'm like, wait, you did 100 text messages to people and you got 6 leads. I'm like, the math is mathing right there. That's exactly what it's supposed to be. My coach tells me 10%, but 6 seems to work. So like, if you did this, I mean, that changes your time, that changes your money, that changes everything, but it's the willingness to do it. Yeah.
Would 100 content be commenting on people's stuff or?
Yeah, I mean,
Because 100 original things is a lot a day, then people would start to get annoyed with that.
well, so you have to put work in to find the different content that's out there. So there's a lot of things you can do. You can take content that somebody else posted and go to ChatGPT and repurpose it. You can go find articles, you can go comment and share other people's different things. If you sit down and you're purposeful and you're focused, you can do it. It does take time. Like this is probably the fastest one, the cold. The warm is probably the second fastest. The content is probably The longest, I'm sorry, you know, I've paid is probably the fastest. So you just pay somebody $100, put out some content and do it. This is probably the longest one. But it makes you start to think more creatively when you do something like that. I post a lot on social media, like 3 or 4 times a day on different platforms. I have like 5 different platforms I post on. So I post a lot. But if you did this, something would happen. Something would absolutely happen. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. Not even gonna try to lie to you and tell you, oh, it's so easy. It's not easy. And that goes back to like people are jealous for what you have, but they're not jealous on how you got it.
It's
Because
simple, but not easy.
Simple is not easy. So you just have to be willing to put in the work and be relentless in your decision on where you gotta be and just walk through every wall that gets put in front of you. Because the wall that's put in front of you is way stronger, you are way stronger than the wall in front of you. It's your mind that's telling you the wall's stronger. So, thoughts or questions before we wrap it up? Again, second time. All right, let's play the last video and get out of here. I know we all got things to do.
I'm gonna make that ringtone.
I know, right?
As we begin to look at what we want, as we begin to look toward the future, what's going to be crucial for you is every time you find yourself saying that you can't do something, you've got to affirm to yourself, hey, no, I can make it. This can happen for me. You've got powers within you, talents within you that you haven't even reached for yet. Now, whatever goal you have, here's what we know. You're going to have some opposition. You're going to have some difficulties. You're going to have some challenges. Long journey, long dark night. But when you hold on to your dream, don't let anybody kill it in you. Just hold on to that dream. When it doesn't make sense to anybody, including you sometimes, just hold on. Once you give yourself an opportunity to try and to stretch, you'll find out you can do more than you can ever begin to imagine.
The first level to success in life, the very first level, is you seeing it. Like it's clear to you. You know exactly what you want. You know exactly when you want it. You know exactly what it tastes like. You know what it looked like. Before you really blow up, and you get success, you literally have it in the palm of your hand without having it. What does your dream look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? The problem with some of y'all is you want somebody else to support your dream. It's yours. I don't owe you a dime. It's your dream. If you wanted to have it, get your butt up and make it happen. If you wanted to have it, rise and grind. I ain't put my dream on nobody else, and I don't care what nobody think about my doggone dream. This is my time. This is my moment. Tomorrow. Ain't no such thing as tomorrow. We only got today.
It's necessary that you be patient. It's necessary that you take a stand, that you dig in. It's necessary to know there are going to be some difficult times. I know I'm going to have to take some blows. Find out how strong I am. Can I stand up? I know I'm going to experience some rejection and disappointment. I know there are going to be some hard decisions to make. The things are going to be so uncertain that I'm going to feel overwhelmed and feel like I can't handle it. I know I'm going to experience all of that. Why? It's necessary. It's a part of life. It's called life. All of that will create you to a certain kind of person. That as you go through that experience, what you become in the process, that you'll discover a part of you that you did not know was there.
Don't cry to give up. Cry to keep going. Don't cry to quit. You already in pain. You already hurt. Get a reward from it. Don't go to sleep until you succeed. It's about heart. You gotta have heart. Pain is temporary. It may last for a minute, or an hour, or a day, or even a year. But eventually, it will subside. And something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it will last forever. I dare you to take a little pain. I dare you. I dare you not to go home. Somebody said, I don't go home, I feel bad. Go through it. You ain't gonna die. At the end of pain is success.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, John, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, buddy.
Well,